Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of A Funny Thing Called Business, where 4 business owners around the table share the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we all now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. So today we're talking about networking. And we have around the table Clare Whalley,
Darren Langley,
Kate Curry,
Pete Morgan.
Fabulous. Okay, guys. So my first question to you about networking, and obviously we've got years of experience between us, so I know you've all been to loads of groups. What's your favourite funny networking related tale? I'd love to hear it.
Well, I might open this up with a clanger that I've dropped several times, probably still not learning my lesson from it. But a lot of these network events tend to be early morning ones, and they include a breakfast, and that takes a certain amount of strategy to navigate through doing the networking while eating and drinking at the same time. And you can go up to somebody and go, so what do you do? Just as they've taken a massive bite of a bacon sandwich, or even worse, a mouthful of muesli. And then you have that really awkward moment where you're just like watching them.
or trying to avoid being spat on with their food.
And you're like, do I fill the silence? Do I just perform for a bit? What do we do?
Yeah.
Has everyone else had that happen?
Yes.
It's not just me.
What the news, not the weather.
Yes.
You know, there's no need for that. Yeah, I thought you were going to tell kind of the story that I've done on, I think it's only a couple of occasions. Again, it was a very early morning breakfast networking event, and there was a 40-minute presentation in the middle of it. And I'd had quite a late night the night before. And the presentation was particularly tailored to someone who wasn't me. Mm-hmm. So it became clear fairly quickly that, okay, this isn't going to be something I'm really going to be making notes on. And it was that kind of, there comes that point when you're like, oh yes, I'm listening to this, but I've got my eyes closed. and then you're having to think, how long have I had my eyes closed for?
Oh, and I may have been dribbling.
Exactly, yeah. But it's when and I've never done this, but it's if you kind of do that kind of, hello, what? And wake yourself up kind of with how asleep you have been. So that's been my network breakfast. I love breakfast networking, but when it was just a bit too early, combined with a late night and a subject that isn't particularly targeted to me, yeah, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's a bad combination.
Yeah, it is.
I remember my first networking event. I'd just come out of the corporate world and ended up in a networking event at 6:45 in the morning with that very famous networking group that we all know. And it was walking...
Oh, yeah. We can say it.
Oh, okay, right. It's because I haven't got very positive things to say about it. Okay. So I remember walking into the room, like a boardroom full of just men in grey suits, and there was me in my jeans, and I thought, yeah, you got it. And it was just... I was in the wrong place. And that was my introduction to the world of networking outside of a corporate.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. Darren.
I mean, yeah, Pete, you mentioned about like 40-minute presentations. I don't know one of the other staples really of a networking event, particularly the BNI ones, is the 60-second presentation. And
yeah,
I think, you come across, you sit there and listen to everyone's 60 seconds, you come across people who, I think they're in a different space-time continuum or something, where 60 seconds is like 5 minutes. Yeah. And they just sit there and they kind of go on and rattle through every service they offer. And I think the only thing that people really remember when they sit down is that they were the one who stole all of the time and ran over.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of creates a really negative impression. I think, that's definitely the thing to avoid
Definitely.
as a networker.
And it always tends to be people who've never particularly crafted their 60 seconds.
No.
It just becomes this kind of rambling kind of, I knew there was something else.
Yeah.
So, when I was born, all right, you're going way too far back. They haven't kind of honed the message, and I remember someone doing a 60 seconds telling a story from their workplace which was incredibly inappropriate for any civilised meeting room. And they thought they were telling this incredible story that was really funny, and it was basically about someone who worked for them. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Somebody who worked for them who was doing something inappropriate at their desk. And we thought it was going to end with it being like a big HR thing and they getting dismissed. But it wasn't. So, I told him not to do it anymore, and I kept him on. So it was like, okay, one, you've said something inappropriate, and two, that's the worst decision you could have made with that particular worker. And it was...
Were they in HR?
Yes, thankfully, no. But I was after them, and I was so thrown by it. It was that kind of... And
that would really put you off. Like, I would not want to go around there and shake hands with any of your team.
We know what you were doing.
Was he looking for cleaners that particular
Yeah, he was. Kleenex. Cleaners. Yeah, cleaners.
Oh dear. See, I've been to lots of networking events where, people smell of BO and they've got bad breath and I'm like, no, you don't go out to a group of people where you smell.
Where you smell. Yeah.
That's not going to get you any business.
You've looked at me a couple of times as you've said that.
It's just because you're opposite, mate.
Just checking. It's fine.
There's definitely protocol that you follow with networking, and I think when you're first starting out, it's quite a learning curve, isn't it? Especially like some of the more structured ones where you do sit round and everyone takes it in turns to do a 60-second presentation, but some of them it's like a cattle market almost, and you turn up and there's a room packed full of people that all look like they know what they're doing and they're talking animatedly to each other, and you're like, what do I do now? And so you just look around for the nearest person to go and speak to.
Usually somebody you already know.
Yeah.
And see every day.
Somebody.
Latch on to people you already know.
Yeah, so it's definitely... I've found that from networking that the key is to just make yourself go around and speak to people, and so your body language, you can go and interrupt people almost and just stand there and stare at them until they are forced to acknowledge you and come and speak to you.
I do that, but they still never look at me. They just kind of shuffle away.
Yeah.
So what do you wish you would known when you were starting out about networking? Because we've all been in this for years, so...
I think mine is, which I've probably mentioned before, is realising that every conversation doesn't have to end in a sale. Because when I first started out, that's exactly what I thought. I thought I would only spend time on or have one-to-ones or with someone who I thought, I'm going to get money out of them. And it took me months before someone said, it doesn't have to be like that. That was the thing I wish someone had said. You're just here, it's a social thing. Yeah. And then in time, business may come from it. But really, you're just here to have some breakfast and hear about some other businesses.
It's a long-term thing, isn't it? It's kind of like dating, isn't it? You don't go from the first date to being married or whatever. Usually, I mean.
Have you heard of Tinder?
But it's a long process, and I think when people, it's again like the 60 seconds thing. When people do their 60 seconds, I think got to cram it all in so that everyone leaves here knowing everything that I do. Yeah. But really, it's not 60 seconds that week. It's basically an hour that's split into 60-second segments over the year or 2 years or whatever. So it's just kind of. It's a bit of you've got to think kind of long term, and
I don't know if any people always listen to it anyway.
They don't listen to it. No.
I was at one recently, and we wanted to stand up and do our 60-second pitch. When I sat down, and at the end, when everyone finished, the woman next to me said, "So what do you do?" I was like, "Weren't you listening?" And I smashed it as well. It was a brilliant 60 seconds.
But that's the thing, when you're if you're one of the first ones to go in the 60 seconds, you can look around the room and just imagine everyone's thinking, oh, what am I going to say for my 60 seconds? Or, oh, I'm really nervous to stand up in front of all these people. And you're talking while they're thinking, having internal monologues. And then at the end, if you're one of the last ones to go, you can look around the room and they're like, yeah, I smashed that. 60 seconds, I'm the best. And the others are like, oh, when's the food coming out? When can I get out of here?
Yeah.
It's like, is anyone actually listening to what I'm saying? But that's the thing. It's repetition. You just say the same thing every week or similar things every week, and eventually the penny drops, kind of thing.
See, because I used to ask a question about halfway through, and because then you would even just briefly get a kind of a response from the room. I don't know if it helped or not, but it was just something to kind of disrupt the attention and make sure that people were paying attention to you. And you'd ask something really general, you know, who likes the colour blue or something.
Who ridiculous. Here does things at their desks that they shouldn't be doing?
Me? Oh no, sorry, I thought you were just asking that now.
See, I love the fact that you said, Pete, you know, it took you a few months to realise. It took me a good 18 months, 2 years to realise that, business takes a long time. I think, when I started, I was really wet behind the ears and it was a massive learning curve. So, I mean, my aim now when I go out to networking is to just meet one like-minded person.
Ah, nice. Good idea.
Rather than, I've got to get business, I've got to get everybody to like me in the whole room. It's just to meet people, get a connection.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's all about getting clients, and that's how it starts off, like, I need to get clients from this meeting, otherwise I've wasted my time. But actually, some of the more successful and some of my favourite network groups that I'm a part of are the ones where it's more, let's just share knowledge with each other and let's all grow our businesses together and learn to help each other, and then business comes as a secondary to that, which is the way of doing things, and by doing it that way, you're building those relationships and building your business
and working with people that you like.
Well, that's it. It all comes down to the know, like, and trust thing, doesn't it? No one's going to refer business to people they've just met. We can send you to your best client because you've just met somebody at a networking event. In the moment, you might think, oh, I know, I can introduce these people to my best client, but then you kind of sort of sinks in a bit later that actually I've only just met this person. They could be. It could be rubbish at their job or something, but you've got to build up the trust first.
Do you think there's such a thing as too much networking?
As somebody who networks like 2-3 times a week, yes.
That's when you call it not working. You're not working.
Hey.
Like that.
But I've got to have breakfast, right? Man's got to eat.
It's so because I think 2 times a week is about right. But I know people that you see them on LinkedIn and they must go every day.
Well, I think it starts to be counterproductive because if you're seen at a lot of networking events a lot of times by, then it's like, are you actually doing any work?
Yeah.
But sure, it's finding the right ones to go to. It's not quantity, it's quality, isn't it?
Yes.
If you've got 1 or 2 really great ones that work for you, then it's better to put your energy into those than spreading yourself too thin, I would say.
I also think it's really good to kind of go out to additional ones that you haven't been to before, because you can get too comfy and you've got to keep it fresh.
Yeah, that's true.
Networking is all about getting out of your comfort zone, isn't it, really?
Massively.
And that was where, when I started out, I didn't even really know about networking and what it was, and I remember having a phone call from somebody saying, do you want to come to a networking event? I was what are you talking about? A networking event?
It's so funny, isn't it? Looking back.
It's like, no, I don't need to go to a networking event. I got my business on the website and I do fine. I don't need to go out and sit in a room full of people talking about myself. But now it's kind of like, I can't imagine how people get business without networking. There's a lot of people out there you never see in the networking circuit. So you think, how do you actually get business and meet people?
There's stats that say 70% of the business in the UK last year was done via networking. I mean, 70% is huge. So if you're not networking, you're missing a trick. It's about connecting with people as well. So what's something you've failed at networking? What have you done that's a bit of a oops?
I'm not very good at speed networking. Has anybody tried that?
Yeah, I love it.
I just fail repeatedly over and over again because somebody they'll sit in front of you and I'm like, oh hi, how are you? And then I realise we're 30 seconds into our pitch time and all I've done is made pleasantries. Like, there I should be doing my pitch. But everybody talks really loudly at the same time as well, and that really I don't know, it means I feel like I can't think straight, and I can't hear what they're saying to me very easily as well. So I find I'm not very good at speed networking. I've decided to try and do things more.
I remember shaking hands with somebody once, a man, and it was like I'd dipped my hand into a swimming pool, and I recoiled because it was just a total reaction. I was like, that was pretty
swiping your hand down your jeans.
That was pretty bad to recover from. We didn't do business together.
Funny enough.
No, I really like a good handshake. I hate the limp, sloppy ones. No.
I've turned up at the wrong venue before now. Where you're pretty confident that you know where it is. You turn up, you park up, you stroll in. I'm here for the networking event. Well, they moved a couple of weeks back. They're now at some other place 10 minutes down the road, and it's like, panic, get in the car, drive down there, get parked, rush in. And you're kind of puffing and panting. They're like, hello, welcome to our networking event. It's like, make a good first impression.
Yeah.
Because I've done it. So initially I kind of had like 7 different services that I was doing, and over time we've kind of trimmed it down to just 1 or 2, and I've done that with the 60 seconds where I've just tried to say everything in 60 seconds, and you sound like one of those voices at the end of the ads for a loan.
Small print.
One of those kind of things. Yeah. Your property is risky if you don't give up repayments. I mean, it properly was just like, get through that. So I've done that, and then it was the realisation of, okay, instead of trying to tell them 7 things and they'll take none of them in, just take one thing and they won't take any of that in either. But at least you're just getting your 1 point out there. Exactly, yeah. Just, be focused.
I've had one-to-ones with people that I shouldn't have had one-to-ones with, where I've learnt more, just meet one like-minded person. Because I've had one-to-ones with people who've just sold at me for a good hour and a half, and I'm sat there in my own lounge just thinking, what the hell have I done here? I just want to scream, get out of my house. Yeah. But I've had to sit there and listen to it.
I'm not good at making excuses. I was kind of like, you could be sitting there having a one-to-one, it goes on for a couple of hours, like you say. And you just, what am I doing here? I've got so much work to be doing.
How do you extricate yourself from those conversations?
I find that's really difficult. I just zone out and go to my happy place.
Just paint on your eyeballs.
Yeah. And I just hope they don't ask me any questions at the end. That will have to reveal that I wasn't listening to them.
Because someone did that with, they worked for a franchise business. And does it matter if I say it was a utility warehouse?
Okay.
And they said, I might make a podcast. Okay, come round, let's meet up and chat about it. And they said, well, I'll come to you and we can chat about it. Yeah, if you want, that's fine. And it was just a utility warehouse sales pitch.
Yeah.
They weren't interested in doing a podcast. They just wanted to be in my property so they could say,
let me check your phone lines. How many have you got?
Yeah. So they could, and I was very polite, but I did not. They didn't get an offer of a second cup of tea, nor any more biscuits. It was, once you finish your pitch, you can now go. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. So is it good to meet people on neutral territory then? If you don't know them so well, let's meet in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then blame it on the parking for where you need to leave.
Yeah.
Or find a coffee shop that's got a window in the toilets that you can climb through.
I don't think it's ever been that bad.
No. But now we know it's an option. So what should I have asked you about that I haven't? What's the worst thing that's happened to you? Networking.
I think one of the worst things that's happened to me is when I've introduced myself to somebody and they've looked at me funny. I'm like, oh no, we already know each other, don't we? Oh God, that's just so cringy, because they're just like, what's wrong with me? Why don't you remember me? And there's just no backpedaling from that one. You just have to just hang your head down and go, I'm so sorry. Walk away.
I had it where I mentioned the name of my business and they laughed. And I kind of took mock offence. Oh, well, that's just lovely. Oh, well, that's great. And they really took that to heart, and they thought I was being serious. And no matter how much I was like, no, it's all right, I was only joking.
Yeah.
Who cares? Oh, I'm just so then I feel awful. So then it just gets awkward between the two of you. And even now when we meet, it is, I'm sorry again.
Get it.
It's all right, don't worry. I laugh at it.
Yeah. I think this is what we have to remember, don't we, when we're going out networking, that everybody is outside of their comfort zones. And, it's a big thing, isn't it, to put yourself out there, be meeting new people and sharing what you do. So we're all a little bit vulnerable, aren't we, out networking?
Yeah, definitely. And the first time you do it is absolutely terrifying. It really is. I remember the first time I did it and, it was working its way around the room, the 60 seconds, and I was there, like, holding my bit of paper, like... And then I was like, oh, my God, there's 3 people to go, 2 people to go. Oh, my God, I'm next. And I remember to stand up, and I was like, how am I going to speak? My tongue is stuck to the top of my mouth. My hands are all slimy. I was holding this piece of paper, and I was literally just rapping my way through my 60-second pitch. Literally, just like a shopping list of all the things that I do, and then I just quickly sat down.
I think I'd like to hear you rap your 60-second pitch.
Oh, yes, that's a great idea. Rap it.
With a little bit of like boom.
Actually, on second thoughts, maybe not.
We've heard enough.
But I think overall it's just such a great way to grow your business, and the majority of connections, not just clients but people who are support me in my business through suppliers and all that kind of thing. It's just...
And it's the personal growth, because like you say, you're really nervous to do it the first time, but now you've done it like hundreds of times. It's just...
Yeah, I still do get a bit nervous,
well,
do you?
Of course. I
think that means that it matters to you. It matters to you to represent yourself in the right way.
But you can do it, and you kind of have a bit more confidence, and you
definitely.
can get up and you think, well, when I stand up, they're all going to stop and listen this time, Nope.
So Darren, as an avid networker, then, what's the worst thing that's happened to you?
I don't really know. I can't think of anything.
But you know what? That's a good thing, though, isn't it? Because
I've obviously erased them from my memory. I'm sure the people I network with would tell you lots of stuff.
They've got loads of stories. We say it's a terrifying experience first time, but ultimately, we've been networking for years, and the worst thing that's happened is a bit of muse's been sprayed on our face. That's not so bad, is it? I want a wet handshake.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Not regularly.
No.
I don't want it to be... Oh, Pete's coming today. I'll get a mouthful of muesli. I'll dip my hands in water. I don't want that.
So what are you taking away from the conversation today?
I think, like most of the times, it's just nice to hear you're not the only one. That everyone has had those nightmare kind of networking experiences and those fears, and it's good to hear that other people get nervous doing their 60 seconds as well. I mean, some people, it's written all over their face and their performance, but it's just...
But that also, I mean, when you see people who are really nervous, everyone in the room is just kind of rooting for them.
Absolutely.
Like, you can do this.
Never them and us.
Yeah. No one's like laughing and chuckling away.
No.
Well, if they are, then they're not very professional, but... really, it's a supportive thing.
It is.
Yeah. See, I see people standing up and starting their 60 seconds with, oh, I'm really bad at this, I'm really nervous, or, you don't need to do that. Just get on with your 60 seconds. In a minute and 1 second, you'll be sat back down in your chair and you can recover yourself.
Unless they're 60 seconds hog and they go on for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They get into they find their flow suddenly and they're not nervous and they just rattle on.
It reminds me of that scene out of the Goonies. That scene out of the Goonies, and they say, "So, tell me what you did." I can't remember the quote. Tell me what you did, or tell me all the things that have gone wrong. And he just goes, "Oh well, I started off when I was 3." Do you remember that scene? Oh, that's really...
With Chunk.
Yeah, with Chunk.
With the Fratellis.
Yeah.
I watch too much television.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing all your trials and tribulations, guys, of networking. Ultimately, if you haven't networked in your business, please go get out there. There's some great people that you can meet, some wonderful connections, and this is how we all met around the table, through networking. So, wonderful things can happen through networking for your business. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, please be kind and give us a lovely review. See you on the next episode.